Okay. I thought, there was a good bit of resiliency from our team that we're seeing, a lot of fight from our guys. Golly, excuse me. Must be the cigar smoke. That's right. Yeah. Showing a little fight in my esophagus. A lot of resiliency in our players. I thought, that's one thing that our guys have done a great job of developing. I think Coach DeBoer has done a tremendous job of developing a grit and toughness in our team, and it's showing up on game day. We were able to affect the quarterback the other night. We were able to limit some of the shots. This is a team that had really created a lot of shots downfield, had capitalized on those shots and explosive plays. And we were able to limit some of those things in the passing game. Obviously 4 sacks and 8 TFLs, that helps. I think we took some steps in the right direction in terms of affecting the quarterback, and yet at the same time, we've had a number of 2-minute situations that have come up the last few games, and we have not been able to get a quarterback on the ground. And so that's something that we have to find a way to affect the quarterback at the end of games in particular. And that's something that we certainly will continue to look at and figure out how to put our players in the best position to go put people away at the end of games that we have not done consistently well enough. Probably the stat of the game is they were 2 of 5 in the red zone. Really, great fight from our guys. We talk about it all the time. Coach DeBoer talks about it all the time. Just make them snap the ball one more time, and kind of that E-Bombay mentality that our players, we talk about that all the time. The quote from the movie The Black Panther, right? Just hold the line, hold the fast the line, do your 1/11th and do your job, and good things can happen. And so that was certainly a positive there. Twice they got inside the 3-yard line and came away with -7 points. So really a great job by our guys, and certainly Zabian making that play right before half was tremendous momentum for our football team. Fundamentally, we have to keep improving. Good teams are going to find ways to improve as the season goes on. I think some of the things, when we are giving up explosives, particularly in the run game, there are fundamental issues, not leveraging the ball properly, finishing plays, tackling, and there were some things that we got exposed on there that we've got to make sure that we're striving to become better fundamentally. And then, ultimately, nobody stays the same. Everybody's got to find a way to keep getting better, find wrinkles schematically, find things fundamentally that we can keep improving, and play with the edge that we have developed and that we've earned as a football team. When you look at South Carolina, this is a fantastic game day environment. It's a hard place to go and play. I was, been at multiple games. My dad coached there for a couple of years, and I've watched them take the momentum from games, and their fans do a tremendous job in the environment that they create. This is obviously a very dangerous quarterback in Lenore Sellers. He does some great things in the passing game. Very hard to tackle, almost never gets tackled and brought down by the first guy. And so anybody that can create and extend plays with his feet is certainly going to present problems for a defense. You look at their team, and I know they've had some struggles, but this was a team that won 5 of their last 6 in 2024. They had a very similar schedule going into our game, and then rattled off, a number of wins. Winning does not get easier. We talk to our players about that. It only gets harder because of the target that's going to be painted on your chest. We're always going to get teams' best, but there's an earned confidence that our players need to continue to play with as we start transitioning in the back half of our season in SEC play. So looking forward to the week of work, looking forward to finding a way to get our players better, and play with an edge as we get into Saturday in Columbia.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Let's start with Charlie on the right.
Yeah, Coach. Do you know Coach Shula at all, and how different do you see their offense kind of with him calling plays this year compared to last?
Yeah, no, I don't know Coach Shula. I know he was here, I guess, when my dad was the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, so there was some crossover there. But don't know him in particular. Think highly of their staff. I've known Dow Loggins, their former offensive coordinator, very well. I know they've kept the same system. You think about Shane and his offensive background. They're very good offensive minds. They've got a very dynamic passing game, good complements in the run game. They run the quarterback enough as well that makes things challenging to defend with the 1+ quarterback system. And so they present a number of challenges, and anytime you have an athletic quarterback like that has the arm talent to make all the throws on the field, they're going to make you defend the width and vertical stretch of the field. So be a good challenge for us.
Staying on the right side, let's go to Nick.
Yeah, you talked, I think, in the spring about making sure that handling success is done better this season than last season. You face some tough offenses, and now this is an offense that statistically I think is worse than the SEC in terms of points per game. What is the message going to be in terms of not looking at, okay, you can easily take your foot off the brake when you're facing an offense that isn't perceived to be as good as what you have faced?
Yeah. That was obviously a pretty tremendous stretch there. It felt like, every team I would come in and look at the stat line, and somehow they were always the first number one in the SEC in scoring offense and half the numbers and all those things. You're going to have teams, right, that maybe on paper look a certain way, but when you turn on the tape, this is a very dangerous football team. And I think our players have the maturity enough to be able to see those things. And I think we have the maturity, or we have developed the maturity to learn from our past adversity. And that's something that I think this team has an edge right now, in large part because we have learned from mistakes of the past, and we haven't forgot about those things. And those are things that we need to make sure that we carry throughout the rest of the season. Success, if handled properly and not allowing complacency, which complacency will creep into any area that you allow it. It's like, rodents getting into your house, right? Once they're in, right, it's hard to get them out. Complacency is exactly the same way. You have to find ways to shore up any area for us as a football team to make sure complacency isn't there. And I think Coach DeBoer has done a tremendous job with that with our players. And I think our players have a maturity to make sure that those things don't happen.
Jump to the far left, Chase.
We saw a little bit more of Red Morgan against Tennessee. Looked like he played pretty well. Can you just speak to his role and progress?
Yeah. You want to make sure I play him too or whatever, so. I thought you'd give me more of a scheme, question or something like that, I'll tell you, you win a couple of games and everybody gets complacent, I think, Red it's been fun for me to watch Red's development and growth. He had to do so many things. We asked him a lot out of him a year ago as a true freshman to go in and play in some high-level games and execute, and he took his lumps, and he also did some really great things. I think fundamentally he has improved so much. His consistency on the field has improved so much, and it was really great to see him be rewarded with the way that he's playing right now. He's got twitch. He can make space tackles. He can take the air out of the ball, meaning that he can, cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. And when you're dealing with teams, for example, like Tennessee, that stretch you laterally in the RPO perimeter passing game, it's really good to have, a guy that not only can close space, but can also finish on the ball carrier. And I thought he did a tremendous job of that the other night.
Go to Emily Grace in a second.
So on Saturday, Xavier Brown talked to us about how he had that awareness that the clock was ticking down, right? And he had to get into the end zone. What does that do for you to know that your DBs have such awareness of the situation to not only make the play, but then make the play after the play?
Yeah, that was a tremendous play that Xavier made. And I think one of the things that's so impressive about Xavier is that whatever you emphasize, whatever you work, it shows up on game day, and that's really a lesson that all of our players on defense can learn from Xavier. The consistency that he brings. That situation in particular, we had come out in a different personnel grouping in the play before, and then we had asked for a timeout so that we could see what they were going to be in, and then we brought the guys on the sideline and talked about, hey, listen, this is probably going to be some type of power pass situation, right? And have your eyes in the right place, do your job, do your 1/11th of the defense. And Zabian was just all over it, you know. And so in the moment, right, one, his eyes are in the right place. He knows what to expect. He does his job. And so we built like a cover 2 concept over there. He goes and makes the play. And then we talk about it all the time. You know, we haven't done it nearly enough. In fact, we've only had 2 defensive touchdowns since I've been here. Both of them were Zabian. But you know, when you get the ball, we are trying to score, all right? We're trying to make sure that the next unit that goes out on the field is our field goal unit. And, you know, really tremendous job by him. He put the ball in his outside arm, tucked it away, secured it, and, you know, was off to the races. So did a really great job there.
Second row on the left, Katie.
You talked in your opening about this a little bit already with the pass rush you need to do better late in the game affecting the quarterback. But just overall this season, how have you seen your defense grow and affecting the quarterback?
I think we're still inconsistent. You know, I think very proud of Jan Pierre and some of the things that he did. You know, I think you look at the you know, the plays that he affected the quarterback. He did his job. He did his job at a high level. And when you do your job consistently, good things happen. And that's something that we've continued to stress with him and a number of our players, of just doing their job at a more consistent high level, and production will come from that. But at the same time, we've got to find a way to affect the quarterback better. When you get in 2-minute situations at the end of games and you're 4-man rushing and you don't really want to play man and you don't want to necessarily pressure, you've got to still be able to affect the quarterback. And we've had a number of situations right now where they have moved the ball right down the field and we haven't touched the quarterback. And that's something that we've got to find a way to get better at, or I've got to do some things differently from a schematic standpoint so that we can certainly you know, stifle some of their 2-minute offense. On the flip side, when they did get down to the red zone, a tremendous job by our guys and fight to find a way to keep them out of the end zone, particularly in the fourth quarter.
Go to Colin, front row on the left.
Hey, Kane, kind of continue off what Katie just asked. When you look at what Jan Pierre was able to do at the line of scrimmage, what do you point to and say, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do as an Alabama pass rusher? Like,
Yeah.
what specifics do you see?
I think one of the most effective areas in pass rush is physicality. And, you know, everybody thinks it's a finesse game. You go watch the NFL right now, the vast majority of the sacks come from speed to power. We're not running around people, they're running through people. And our ability to do that, that's something that we have really worked at, is not running around people and giving up vertical lanes in the passing game, but working a speed to power, you know, crush style rush, condensing the pocket, right, and then falling back in, countering back inside on the ball carrier, or the quarterback rather. And that's something that I think we're taking some steps in the right direction, but we're still inconsistent. And that's something that we've got to improve upon.
We're going to finish up with Joe on the left.
Coach, let's stay up front and go to James Smith. I'd like to ask what he's been bringing to the defensive line from a production standpoint, but more importantly from an emotional and mental standpoint.
You know, I think James, James flashes. He is a very athletic player, does some really good things. Needs to become more consistent. You know, a number of our guys are the same way. I'm not necessarily just singling him out. But there were some plays that, you know, he particularly left out on the field. A number of our guys left out on the field. And so that's exciting from a number of ways, because he was very productive in a number of plays, but there were also opportunities that we left out there on the field. And so those are things that, you know, I'd like to continue to see from him and a number of guys in our defense.